We'll start, as always, with the defensive lineman. So last week, we talked about Carl Lawson, who had 3 tackles and a sack, a TFL, 2 QB hits. A pretty solid day. And at the very least, a decently high floor day for getting that sack and TFL. Went exactly how I was kind of hoping it would for Carl Lawson. We talked about Zach Sealer, who had a big day himself. 7 tackles, 5 solo, half a sack, and 2 QB hits. Almost, very close to getting an even bigger day, but 5 solo tackles on 7 total will get it done. We did round out with Yannick Ngakoue, unfortunately, who got absolutely shut down by the Cowboys, and they kept showing clips of him on the broadcast, and they kept showing him getting stuffed. So Yannick Ngakoue, literally nothing, goose egg, unfortunate. But we're going to try to get more of the first 2 there and less of the latter with these defensive lineman pickups. Do you want to kick us off for Week 14? I think you're muted, Axton.
I am. Colson's talking back here. Don't want him to interrupt. No, I'll go ahead and start off with Kwity Paye, defensive end for the Indianapolis Colts. He came back. He's kind of had some off and on stints this year, hasn't he? With injury, missed a few games a while back, came back one more game, then missed another. But this last week, he came back and did everything you expect him to. If he, for some reason, while he was injured, was cut, he'd be a guy that should definitely be picked up if he's available in your leagues. I even found him available in a couple of mine that I will likely be putting in for him. Remind me what kind of stat line did he have this week? He had like 8 tackles, including a sack.
I'll pull it up for you. He had 9 combined tackles. He had a sack, and 6 of those tackles were solo.
Pretty solid day, honestly, coming back off of injury. And was he on a snap count? I didn't even get to look too much into that either, or like a limited snap count. I imagine he played most of it.
He played 68%, which is about what he normally does. He sometimes earlier in the year lingered around that 75, but 68 to 75 is more or less the same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's just a guy that's going to, on the DL, he's going to give you a good solid floor for tackles every week that he's playing. And when he's healthy, he's somebody that you can't not start him. He's somebody that's going to come in and produce for you week in and week out.
He's been so good this year, and I don't think we've talked about it enough. And I'll spend all offseason talking about it because people won't. But he has a tackle for a loss in every single game but one, except for another one where he got injured and left the game, 26% of the way through. So you have a tackle for a loss in, what is that? That is, it's 7 tackles for a loss in about 8 to 9 games played, plus a solid tackle floor, plus he's getting a sack more weeks than not, and he's just a really good player. And I think we would be talking a lot more if he didn't get hurt, and it's such a shame he did, but that resulted in him being dropped, so therefore you guys should be picking him up. He's someone I'm willing to hold all the rest of the way. And quick in here from Marco. Good evening to you, Marco. Always good to see you in the chat. Also see your comment from at Steven Smith. All those half tackles from Kane Ellis last night killed you. For me, it made me some money on the betting end. So it's nice to see that happen. But Kane Ellis has been such a monster and one of the bigger hits we had on this show, I think it's safe to say. But let's move on to our next defensive lineman. That, for me, I think we get a little bit dicey with the rest of these names as it kind of happens when we're getting to the back half of the season. But for me, I'm going to talk about George Karlaftis. So we've been down this road before. It's not something I feel amazing about because we've been tricked into George Karlaftis breaking out before. But I'm willing to play him for this week, and really this week only because he's playing Denver. And Denver holds the ball. Russ holds the ball so long in a game against KC that he's going to be dropping back to pass as much as humanly possible. I really do think that this is a locked-in sack for George Karlaftis. He has back-to-back weeks with a sack already. I think he keeps it riding this one more week. It's obviously going to be a lower floor because of what Karlaftis kind of is. He's kind of getting 3 tackles, and if he gets the sack, you're happy. But I think he will get that sack, and I think he also has a favorable end-of-the-year schedule, so he has a chance of riding a hot hand all the way to a title. And at this point of the year, I'm looking for guys that have the chance at a multi-sack game. And I think Karlaftis is on track to do just that.
Absolutely. He's just someone that's always around the quarterback, and he's not for certain the actual stats on it, but I would assume he's in the top end of the league as far as pressuring the quarterback goes, just on a play-by-play basis. So him and Chris Jones have just kind of been tearing up quarterbacks here and there throughout the year. Nothing too crazy, but definitely making those quarterbacks like Russell Wilson that like to sit in the pocket for a little bit longer, make them get the ball out of their hands a little bit quicker, or if not, then the last couple of games you mentioned, Karlaftis has made him pay. So he's a highly sought after prospect. So we can only hope that maybe he kind of even picks it up and really makes the most of that draft capital.
Plus, according to Pro Football Reference, his nickname is Furious George, which I will also add as a bonus reason to pick him up. And again, he only played 46% of snaps this past week, which is not usual for him. I expect that to go back up next week, and he still got a sack on that. He still got TFL. He still got 3 combined tackles. So I do expect him to get, be a much more bigger part of this unit going forward. It's a low floor play, and I will say that this is not my. If people want to throw comparisons in the chat, I would love to do that because I think this name, as well as the next one that we're going to throw out there, aren't ones that we feel super happy about, but we think they're ones that will get the job done.
A couple of guys that have some upside. But yeah, we'll move on to the last guy, Bruce Irvin, defensive lineman for the Seattle Seahawks. He had a breakout return in week 9, but it's kind of been a little bit cold ever since. He's still getting to the quarterback because he's had a few QB hits, 3 to be specific, in the last couple of weeks. He hasn't quite finished those off in terms of sacks, and he's only played about 68% of the snaps. It's just something that he's getting close to the opportunity. Somebody that just is right there. That really all it takes is just one game for him to really just explode. But again, we just have to reiterate that. You could get a few games in between where he has an extremely low floor, just kind of like George Karlaftis. They're just really high upside guys, but you also got that low floor with them. So, but his cold streak could possibly change coming up against a good matchup against the Carolina Panthers. They've been changing quarterbacks week in and week out, and seems like this could be a favorable matchup for Bruce Irvin to get back there and get to Sam Darnold, maybe get a sack or 2 this week.
Yeah,
puzzled.
What was that? Sorry, I got puzzled because I got breaking news. It wasn't anything to do with what you were saying, but
no.
Some breaking news of a firing in the league. It's not Nathaniel Hackett. It's not Josh McDaniel. It's the AFC South leading Titans have fired GM John Robinson. The general manager for the Tennessee Titans has been ousted. Players have been informed a change is being made. That has nothing to do with waiver wires for this one, but is interesting to see for a team that has drastically outperformed what I thought they would do in terms of the injuries they suffered. But hey, Tennessee, you do you. I'm sure there's another show that I could start up in the offseason to talk all about this type of thing. So stay with the IDP guys because all this is coming and more. But that is our defensive lineman pickups for this week. Hopefully we keep the hot hand going from last week outside of Ngakwe.